Hello everybody, and welcome to Greg's Vintage Workshop, where I'm restoring history one piece at a time. Tonight we're going to be looking at the 1939 Emerson CF255 that I've been working on. And in part 4 I will be mainly working on the cabinet. It had a big major crack on one side and it was missing some chunks out of the bakelite. So I work on that and we'll see how that turns out. And then I also am making a new back for the radio. I may use the old one in conjunction with the new one. Not quite sure how I'm going to do that, so we'll just have to wait and see what I do. So without further ado, let's get started. So one of the things I wanted to show you guys was a change that I made on this. Bob and I actually basically made the change. I showed you the 22 ohm resistor that we had in that circuit for the filament voltages, and we were running high on the bulb voltage. I think we were running like 7.7. We had to account it for the bulb voltage, so we made some changes on that. I removed the 22 ohm 5 watt resistor that we had in that circuit, and I replaced it with two 1 watt resistors, a 220 ohm and a 180 ohm, in order to come up with close to 100 ohms. I think it was like 99.4 ohms, and I put that one in there to account for the bulb. And one of the things I was seeing was a little bit higher voltages that I wanted to see based on my household current. When I was showing my voltages to you guys earlier, I had my Variac set at 117 volts. The instructions with the CF255, the alignment instructions and schematic, mentions that the voltages are taken at 117 volts, but the radio itself is capable of 105 through 125. So I wanted to bring that down some for my normal household current, which normally runs about 123. So what we did was we took that 22 ohm 5 watt and put it in the circuit of the line cord before the 8 microfarad cap. So I'm going to flip this over and show you that. Give me 1 second. Actually, I don't have to flip it completely over. If you can look through here very easily. So there is the 22 ohm resistor, and I have had to find a good spot for it because there's no room in there for it, and so that's where I decided to put it, was right there. It doesn't get so hot that you can't touch it, but it does get warm, so I decided to go ahead and put it up against the chassis. I'm holding it in place with a spring, and then in there is the two resistors in parallel to give me my 99.4 ohms. So once we did that, when my voltage is at 123, it is down to 118, and at 118 I think it was 32.2 volts on the 32L7, and on the 12B8 we were at like 12.6, I think it was, and on the filament for the bulb we were at 6.7. So I think that we're in pretty good shape as far as all those voltages, and we should be good to go. The other thing, I did do the speaker already. I coated the entire speaker with the clear Elmer's that I like, and it dried very nicely, and everything sealed up, and I didn't even paint it, and it has the flat surface. So I think we're good to go. So we're in good shape here. So now let's move on to the cabinet. Alright, so I'm getting ready to take a look at this cabinet. As you can see, how cruddy it is inside. And the hole right there is broken out a little bit. There it's broken out a little bit. The bottom not so much. Obviously the cabinet's broken out there. There's a better look at what the cabinet looks like. It's broke out there. Really nasty, nasty, nasty. The actual Emerson is in pretty good shape, as are those numbers. I think what I'm going to do is take it upstairs and put it in the wife's kitchen sink and just wash it off really good in soapy water. And then I gotta repair this crack. Throw some super glue. And I was just experimenting around with some epoxy. We're going to see how it sets up. I want to try and get some color in it. Let me show you what that looks like. Okay, so we gave it that bath. I took it upstairs in my wife's kitchen sink. It's amazing how clean this came. And look at the shine that this actually came just from doing that. I mean, I still need to buff it around on the top and the sides. The sides not even so much. Maybe a little bit. But overall, I mean, I'll probably give it some right here because it's dull. We'll see. I don't think it's going to require much buffing though. It actually cleaned up very nice. So what we have to do, if you remember, is we have a split here that runs to the crack. So we need to glue that. I'm going to spread it like that, and then I'm going to super glue it, and then we'll epoxy it. And I think that was the only crack, and then over here we're missing a piece right here. So I got to super glue this first. Let me get some super glue and we will do this. Now it's been a few days since I washed it, so it's nice and clean. It's dry now. Everything's dry. It's pretty clean. I might have missed an area or two in there, but I'll finish wiping that out before I put the final assembly on it. But I want to add some additional epoxy here in the corner, and maybe up on this one as well, and maybe down here as well. So let me get some super glue and let's see if we can get this part glued. I'm also going to get me a clamp and put on there. I'll be right back. Alright, so I got some super glue, just some cheapo Dollar Tree super glue, and I'm not going to try and spread that much. I think I'm just going to put it on from the inside. It should wick through there. Let me see if I can get to where I can see what I'm doing here. Let's see where that crack runs. I think that crack is actually running right down that edge. So what I'm going to do is we'll put the super glue right here, and we'll let it run right down that edge, if you can see that. Like that. And I'm going to just kind of pop it loose a little bit just to make sure it wicks in there. And yeah, it wicked through. You can see it right there. So now I'm going to take the clamp and just pull it together ever so slightly just to make sure that we got a good joint. I don't want to squish it. I don't want to deform it, but I do want it to be snug. So I think we're snug right there. So we'll let that set up, and while it is setting up, I see some ran down inside there. I don't know that that's a great big deal. It might be if it makes it its way to the front. Let me make sure it's not making its way to the front. No, it didn't leach into the front, so that's good. But I think I am going to prop this up just to make sure that it doesn't. So I'll be right back. Let me set this over here to the side. So one of the things I wanted to show you guys is I've been trying to figure out how I was going to repair the Bakelite. I knew I was going to repair it with epoxy, but I need to colorize the epoxy. I did a little research online that basically said most epoxies can accept dry ingredient to colorize it without affecting the hardening aspect of the epoxy, whereas most wet ingredients will affect the hardening agent of the epoxy. So I've been doing some experimenting. In this container I have that substance. If this was smell-o-vision, you'd be able to tell what this is. This is actually ground cloves, the spice, ground cloves. And when I was looking at it in the store, I thought that may darken up when mixed with epoxy and closely match the Bakelite. That's that one. This one is that. That, if you could smell it, is coffee. This is actually Starbucks brand K-Cup coffee. And this actually, in its existing color, is pretty darn close to the Bakelite. So, I did an experiment the other day, and I mixed up both of these with epoxy. And this was my results. So, this one is the cloves. Now, if I get close enough, you can see the different coloration in there, which is good because the Bakelite isn't solid, right? You can see specks of different material in there, but it's too light. This was the coffee grounds, and if I can get it so it's not glaring, this is actually really close to the Bakelite cabinet. Matter of fact, let me grab it, even though it's over there setting with the clamp on it. I'm going to bring it over here real quick and I'll show you what I mean. So, if I take this, and I take this, and I hold it where light doesn't glare on it, that's pretty close. That's pretty darn close. So that's pretty close. So that being said, I'm thinking that's what I'm going to use. But then I started second guessing myself. I was like, well, what if I mix some of the cloves into that in some ratio? Will I get a little bit of different effect? Keep it dark, but just a little bit of that, so there's just a little bit of smattering of the little bit of color. Would that make it even better? So I'm not going to make a sample like that, but I think I'm going to try it, and we'll see what it turns out like. Maybe I will make a sample. Let's do that. We'll make a sample, and we'll see how it looks. Let me get that ready. Okay, so I just got some 2-part Gorilla Glue epoxy, 5-minute epoxy. So let me just kind of squirt some in here. All right, we're going to call that good. Then I'll take some of my coffee grounds. I'm going to stick in there. And I'm going to stick just a little bit of this clove. I don't want very much clove because I don't want it to alter too much. There we go. And let's see what we get. All right. We'll let that set up. And so one of the things I just did was I roughed up that bottom area right here where I'm going to put that epoxy so it has a place to bite. So now what I got to do is I need to tape a piece of the plastic like this onto the bottom and a little bit of a ridge here to hold the epoxy. So I'm going to make something for this, get that taped up while we're still waiting for that epoxy to set up. Alright, so what I just did was I just cut this piece right here out of this thing. And I'm going to trim this up so that this edge here forms my back and get this taped onto it. Okay, so I've got my patch on there, my plastic patch with the backing on it so it doesn't run out, and that's ready to pour. But I think what I'm going to do is go ahead and get this one ready as well, so I can do, well, you know what, I got to wait until this sets anyway. I can't do this one, so yeah, we'll do this one and then I'll turn around and do this one. Okay, so this is that epoxy, and I haven't pulled it out of there because I'm trying to keep the shiny side up. But I think it's pretty close. So that's what I'm going to use. I'm going to use some of the coffee grounds and just a little bit of the cloves, and I'm going to mix that up and put it in there, and I'll come back. Alright, so as you can see, I got the epoxy in there. I'm getting ready to unveil it. Now I've got my form on the other side, but I haven't poured it yet because I kind of wanted to see. I'm going to have to hold that because I don't want it to seep in there. You can see there's a little bit of a gap that closes when I do that. I'm going to have to, once I put it in there, I'm going to have to hold my finger on it. But I did want to check this out before I do it and just see how it turned out. So let's just unveil it here and see what we get. Yeah, let's see what we get. It's nice and shiny. It looks pretty darn good. Get the angle so the shine's off of it there. Look at that. That's pretty darn close. That is pretty darn close. Now I'll have to grind this lip. I wanted to make sure I was higher so that I could come down with it. That is pretty darn good. I can't even feel it. It's such a nice tight fit right there. I can't even feel it. I don't know if you can see that or not, but I see a little bit of the color from that clove in there. It's pretty darn good. I'm pretty impressed with that. Okay, well, I'm going to have to mix up some more so I can get this side done. Let me get that done. Okay, so as you saw, I just got through buffing this. It still needs a little bit more work. I won't be doing it with power buffer, I'll be doing it by hand though. But overall, it's okay. And so that's my repair up here. And as you can see, it blends in pretty good. Now it's not absolutely perfect, but if I turn it like this, you can see right here, crack is practically invisible unless the light hits it just right. And this is pretty invisible unless the light hits it just right. But right here, it's a little high, and I would like to sand it. My concern is that if I sand it and I sand on the epoxy is going to dull out, and it probably will not come back as shiny, if shiny at all. So it's one of those things that I'm pretty happy with it, and unless the person really looks at it really close and gets it in the light just right, it's practically invisible. So considering what it was, hold that angle just right, and you can just see the color just really blends in nice. So I'm going to leave it at that. The other one's in there as well. It's not quite as shiny, but we're going to leave it at that. So now that I've done that, I'm going to turn my attention to, oh, there's the bottom cleaned up pretty nice too. Okay, so now that I'm done with that, I'm going to turn my attention to the back. So the back was broken. This is the back. I've actually had it compressed and it's straightened out pretty nice. Of course, this corner's broke out. This whole section's broke out, and what this is behind the 32 where so much heat gets in there. These are actually supposed to be long slots, 3 long slots. I could not find any good pictures online of a complete one, so apparently that was a weak spot because of the heat. But I got enough of pictures to understand that it's 3 slots. So what I did, I don't want to get rid of this, obviously, because it has all this detail work in here. Emerson Radio and Pilot Company, New York, blah blah, and then CF255. And on the back side, it has all of the patent information. So I don't want to get rid of this. So I'm torn as to what I'm going to do. So what I did was I went to Hobby Lobby yesterday and I picked up this big old sheet of hardboard, which is actually the exact thickness of this. They had brown, but unfortunately it was like brown painted paper, hardboard, so it was white on the inside and backside. So I decided to go with the black. Alright, I put this back, and I cut a piece out, as you saw the piece that was out of there, and I traced this onto here as best I could, and I added where I thought I needed to add. So I've been deciding what I'm going to do, and here's what I think I'm going to do. I think I'm going to make 2 of these. I'm going to get all the holes in it that needs to be in there, take all this out, make my slots, get it trial fitted, because this is all a guess here. I have no idea where I'm at with the radio cabinet right in here. So I'm going to cut this oversized, and then I'm going to place it in the cabinet and see where I have to trim it to make it fit and where I got to put that hole. Once I get that done, I'm going to use it to make a piece or 2, like this little piece up here that's missing, and this section here that's missing, and I'll cut them out and trim this off to fit. Like up here, I'll probably cut the whole corner off, and here I'll even it up. Maybe I'll even come straight down. I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet. But the plan is that I will glue this. I will cut on the back side, the black one, I'll cut a notch so that this can be read. And I will glue this one on here. It'll make it double thick. This will still be on this side. The other will be visible on the other side. And then I will glue these pieces that are missing onto this as well, butting them up to this one. And then I'll paint the whole thing brown so it's all the same shade. And it'll be double thickness, so it should hold up better to the heat, as well as be pretty close and still be able to read the patent information in the back. That's the best idea I can come up with for this. So I'm going to show some of that process. I'm going to use my new Kodak ZE-1. It doesn't do close-up very well, so I'm planning on setting it off to the side so I have room to work, and then you can see me kind of do this. I'm not going to show it all, just some of it. So I got my pieces made up. That's the original. You can see I cut that section out square. That's the new piece. And I've notched it so that we can still read the writing back there. So this is going to go on here. And this is going to go on here. I'm going to glue it all together. I'm going to go clamp it between a block of wood and one of my other workbenches. So we'll go do that, and we will see what it looks like when we get it done. It's over here where it belongs, so don't get lost. The mounting plate for my other articulated arm. So what I did was I sandwiched this between some plastic so it wouldn't stick, and I clamped it down. So let's take it in the other room and see what we got. I think it looks pretty good. It might have slipped a little bit. We can still see our stuff on the back, which is what I wanted. So see our stuff in the front, which is what I wanted. Not completely dry yet because of the plastic apparently. So I'm just going to let it set now. A nice tight joint there. I see a little bit of a teeny weeny crack right there. But this video is starting to get kind of long, so I'm going to go ahead and end it. In part 5 this will be done, because I will trim this up and I will paint it. off camera, and we'll reassemble the radio. We'll get it tuned up. I'll have it playing, and we'll have part 5 and call this Emerson CF255 done at that point in time. But for those of you who made it through this video, Moose thanks you. I thank you. I hope everybody is staying safe and healthy. And so with that, if you're not a subscriber and you like what you saw, please feel free to hit like and subscribe to the channel. If you are already a subscriber, thank you. And I look forward to bringing you more videos this year. So hopefully I'll get part 5 out this week before I have to leave town. So from Greg at Greg's Vintage Workshop, where I'm restoring history one piece at a time, thank you for watching.